Okay, so that's finished now. What I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new null object, layer new, null object. There it goes in. It looks like a layer, but it's got nothing on it. And then what I do in this tracking section here is I go to edit target, make sure that that is applying the motion to null 1. If it isn't, drop down and select that layer. Click OK. And then we click apply. It'll ask you whether you want to apply X and Y. It's always X and Y pretty much. Just means which direction. We want both directions. So there we go now. We've got a null object that is following that wound. You can see it's like in red. And now we can stick anything to that, basically. So what we're going to do is we're going to bring in our wound image. Maggot wound, gross. And we're going to stick that down into the composition. There it is. It is actually a little bit small. Okay, ideally we could have done with something slightly bigger, because the resolution will be affected slightly as it gets increased in size. But we do need it a little bit bigger. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to use the little rotation tool here to rotate it round as well. I'm going to get kind of a good angle on this. Going to sort of position it. We can do some more refined positioning later. Whoops. Obviously we don't want the person's hand in this, like that looks really weird at the minute. So what we're going to do is we're just going to do a little mask around the outside of here. To do that we just go to the pen tool and we're just going to cut out the bit we want. So we only want that little wound bit there. There we go. There you go. You can sort of start to see how this is coming together. Let's move it again into position. We can resize a little bit if we want. If we want to make it a little bit bigger. It looks okay there. You know, you might want to refine that. You know, rotate it around, maybe so that it looks like it's kind of going with the path of the arm. Looks pretty good. There you go. So at the minute, looks like a kind of pizza's been slapped on there. What we need to do is we need to soften the edge of that mask to start off with. So we're going to go into the maggot layer, into masks, and we're just going to put a feather on the edge of that. And we can just increase that until it kind of softens the edge of that wound. And you'll see now if we just click away from this that it, there you go, that's just softened the edge of that slightly. Now what I've did in my example is I went into the colour correction of this as well, because I noticed that there's quite a lot of yellow in here, and that was kind of contrasting quite badly with the actual skin. So what I did is I went into effect, into colour correction, and actually looked at the colour settings. So you could go into any of these colour settings. I'm going to choose hue and saturation. Go into the yellow layer and just reduce the saturation of the yellow. That'll just take the yellow out a little bit. Maybe go into the reds and increase the saturation a little bit, just to bring out that red a little bit more. Could also go into, you know, I could keep going with that for a while. Could look at curves as well, which is always a good one. You can use Lumetri Color. I haven't got it on this slightly older Mac, but you know, we could just adjust that until it matched pretty much the skin in the background. So you see the contrast quite low on that image. So there we go. That's looking a bit better. There, it's looking like a pretty good match. Now all we need to do is make it move with the arm. At the moment, it's just like that, sat in the middle. So what we need to do is go back to the beginning, and we're just going to use this little pick whip here to hook that on to the null object. And then now when we play it, it should move in time with the arm. It even moves across when someone pulls it across. you know, you could refine that more. You could go in. You could, when the thumb pulls it, it goes slightly overlaps the top of the arm. So you could go into that in a bit more detail. There, it sort of like looks like it raises up off the arm a little bit. So you could just bring that mask in a little bit to accommodate for that. You can also you can animate the mask if you feel confident enough to do that. But anyway, that is basically it. That's mapped it into the arm shape now. The next thing I did was I took it over to Premiere, and I did a grade on it. So generally, what you do is do all the effects first on the flat footage, and then grade it all together. And by grading it all together, you'll get a much more uniform look. There is one more thing I did, just to bring it all together as well, is I added a layer of noise over the whole thing. And to do that, I just created a new adjustment layer. So layer new, adjustment layer. And I added a noise effect onto that. So I went down to noise and grain, air. I actually added grain, not noise. Intensity 2, so. Or maybe it was less, I don't know, I can't remember if it was 2. Let's see the final output. Yeah, 2's too much. Just have been 1. There we go. And that will, you can't hardly see it on there probably, but that will just bring it all into, so that it's all got a grain on it. Hopefully Premiere is open by now. Yes, it has. If we look under arm grade, what I've done in here is just added a color grade on top of that original imagery, and some adjustment layers, including the black video on the edges, just to, so there's the original footage. There is a slight grade on the actual footage itself. And just make it look more cinematic by using the arm grade. And the final result again is and there's no way we're going to hang on that shot that long either, so so that'll be perfectly adequate for what we need. Okay, right, stop.